guys, I tell you what, the corruption just doesn't stop when it comes to the Biden administration. I mean, everything these guys touched was corrupt. Now we've got USAID, which I'm dubbing USAID GATE. It's just another big scandal. Comes to find out, not only were they just given a bunch of crap for all kinds of stupid things, but they were given Politico, which is supposed to be a independent news media. They gave them $8 million, and that was just one payment. It's just amazing. All Politico was a mouthpiece for the Democrats to attack Trump. They were the first to say that Russia Gate, was the big thing against Trump, and it just went on, and you just can't make this stuff up. And so now the Democrats are really pissed off because the Elon Musk and the Republicans are in there just gutting them, just saying, well, we're not going to release any more checks until we know where they're going. But not only that, the checks they were writing, which were for stupid things, I think it's $105 million for Serbia, so they can teach DEI to the citizens. What in the hell do we need to be teaching the citizens of Serbia DEI? And also, none of that money ever makes it there. Maybe 20% or less. By the time it goes through all the politicians' hands and the payoffs and the kickbacks and the briberies, nobody gets any of that stuff. At least the people that was supposed to benefit from it. Anyways, let's see what they have to say at the White House here.
More about the waste and corruption that's been taking place at USAID. It's been revealed left-wing news outlet Politico has been raking in millions of dollars from the agency that's supposed to be focused on providing foreign aid.
I was made aware of the funding from USAID to media outlets, including Politico, who I know has a seat in this room. And I can confirm that the more than $8 million taxpayer dollars that have gone to essentially subsidizing subscriptions to Politico on the American taxpayers' dime will no longer be happening. The Doge team is working on canceling those payments now.
Donald Trump.
Oops, Politico. That's got to be a shot in the stomach to you. $8 million. That's got to hurt.
Has slammed this today, insisting that this is possibly one of the biggest scandals in history, where essentially
USAID Gate.
USAID has been using taxpayer dollars to fund fake news. As you'd remember, Politico was one of the first outlets to claim that the Hunter Biden laptop story, broken by the New York Post, was Russian disinformation. Donald Trump posted on
Bingo. They said that Hunter Biden's laptop didn't even exist. It was just some conspiracy made up by the right. Well, it ended up existing, and it had all the crap on it that they said it did.
Truth Social today. Looks like billions of dollars have been stolen at USAID and other agencies, much of it going to the fake news media as a payoff for creating good stories about the Democrats.
Bingo. And bad stories about the Republicans. But you know what the Democrats were doing, the politicians? And when I say Democrats, I mean Democrat politicians. They were having USAID send millions of dollars to people, companies, and then they were getting their kickback. And then the politicians along the way were getting their kickbacks. And then when it got to the country, they were paying off the their individual people there. And by the time it finally ever got to where it was going, it was like a pipe dripping water. There was nothing left of the donations.
The left-wing rag known as Politico seems to have received $8 million. Did the New York Times receive money? Who else did?
Oh, I'm sure everybody received money. If you were willing to write a bad story about the Republicans, you got some money. Now, they might wrap it in a wrapper and call it, oh, here's an advertising budget, and we need to spend $1 million with you next year. Wink, wink, nod, nod. Can you talk about some crap about Trump?
This could be the biggest scandal of them all, perhaps the biggest in history. The Democrats can't hide from this one. Too big, too dirty. USAID has an annual budget of $47 billion.
$47 billion. Now think about that. You know, that helicopter, military helicopter that ran in that airliner. You would think a helicopter like that would have the latest and greatest of all kind of avionics. Avionics being equipment in it that shows them where to fly, what's out around them, and that kind of stuff. But in actuality, a lot of times military aircraft are way behind the curve. You take a good general aviation or GA aircraft, it has Garmin 1000, just the most leading edge. You can see where you're flying. It's pretty incredible. When I started flying years ago, you had VORs, which was like radio indicators. I flew to Freeport, Bahamas one time, and the way we got there was we followed a radio beacon radio tower that was at the Bahamas. We followed that into them. But nowadays, everything is so advanced with GPS and stuff. You can tell within 3 feet of where you're at. The point I'm making is a lot of military aircraft are way behind the curve. I wonder, this $47 billion that the Democrats have been funneling into a bunch of crap, if that money had been spent on avionics for the helicopters like this, other military helicopters, planes, how much better off our military would be, but how much better off those people in that airliner and that helicopter would have been that night. That helicopter could have seen what was out there, but instead they didn't.
And although its mission is a good one to fight starvation, end epidemics and fund education, it's been revealed that in addition to spending money on propping up Politico subscriptions, millions has been spent on DEI projects in Serbia, in Ireland. Cash has been splashed on funding sex changes in Guatemala.
That's what we need. More sex changes in Guatemala. Who in the hell needs good avionics and military aircraft if you need sex changes in Guatemala, right?
And funding tourism in Egypt, and that is just to name a few. Up until recently, USAID
Tourism in Egypt. Got to go see them camels.
had 10,000 staff members around the world, but Trump's administration is reportedly planning on keeping less than 300. Podcaster Joe
Now that's employee cut.
Rogan says that this is what happens when we get a business approach in the White.
You know, the problem with the government is there's nobody stopping them from saying yes. I mean, if somebody needs a raise, okay, I'll give you a raise. If you'll give me a raise, okay, that's great. Let's give each other a raise. Great. Now we're making a lot of money. You know, the average federal employee, I think, this is last year, was making $135,000 a year. That's the average. Plus, they got the greatest benefits in the world, all the health and stuff you can imagine. Plus, how many days a week do those Fed workers take off? They seem like they're never at work. They're just all the time gone. And now Trump's, even before that, they didn't have to come into work. So they didn't have to come into work. They got every other day off as a holiday. They're getting paid a minimum or average of $135 a year, plus the greatest benefits. But look at the average guy on the street, the average small business worker, owner. I mean, it's just like they work their ass off all the time. They work weekends and nights and so forth just to make it. And what does the government do? Oh, well, we'll tax you some more. Remember, the government doesn't make money. It can't earn money. Every dollar the government gets, they have to get it from a taxpayer. A mechanic, a school teacher, firefighter, they just drag in the money, and then what do? They spend $100 million on DEI for Serbia.
House.
You're seeing this, not just waste. You could call it waste.
Here's Joe Rogan. He's one of my favorite guys now.
But it's deeper. It's deeper than waste. It's corruption. And you're seeing that corruption get weeded out. I am hoping that this is successful and that it
corruption, USAID GATE, I'm telling you,
yields a benefit to the American people, to the working class people, to everybody, where they recognize, like, hey, we can't just be spending all our tax money on nonsense.
Right.
And it all should be done with a real clear understanding.
I heard today something. America, if you line up the top 40 countries in the world, America would be ranked 40th in education. And yet, if you still line up all the top 40 countries in the world, America spends more than any other country by far on education. Now, why is that? It's because teachers, I'm sure there's some good teachers, but somewhere along the line, teacher administrators or whatever, the school system as a whole, the Department of Education has gotten into this thing that they're more important than the students. You know, if you turn on any news now, you see all these people down there, they're protesting the Department of Education, trying to get in, blah, blah, blah. Well, these teachers and all, if they cared that much about the students, why aren't you there teaching them at night? Give them some night school. Do that kind of stuff instead of teaching them all this crap you've been teaching them. Okay, guys, here's some more stuff on Fox talking about this USAID crap. This is Rubio. Let's see what he has to say.
This is a 90-day freeze through which it allows us now to review programs. You know, before we did the freeze, we couldn't find out anything about some of these programs. And USAID in particular, they refused to tell us anything. We won't.
Yeah, USAID wouldn't even let them in the building. Well, they just went in with the presidential order and say, "You're out. We're in, out of here."
Tell you what the money's going to, where the money's for, who has it, which contractor it's been. You know, in some cases it goes through 4 different contractors before it reaches the intended recipient. In some cases with USAID, 10, 12, 13%, maybe less of the money was actually reaching the recipient and the rest was going into the overhead and the bureaucracy? This isn't my money.
Overhead. Well, that's a ambiguous term, isn't it? Oh, well, we have to give that for overhead. That's pretty much saying, well, we're going to take whatever we want, and we'll only give the peons at the end just enough so we can say we gave them something.
This is taxpayer money. So we're not going to eliminate foreign aid. We're going to have foreign aid that makes sense. We're going to have foreign aid that works. We're going to have foreign aid that furthers the national interest.
They're not eliminating foreign aid, okay? That's a wake-up call for Democrats. That was Secretary of State Rubio revealing more detail about how USAID...
I'm not exactly sure where I'm at with Rubio yet. He's always kind of been a milquetoast to me. You know, he just kind of does what he's got to do, blah, blah, blah. If he was the president, none of this crap would have got done. He'd have been wanting to talk to everybody, negotiate. He's a real politician, not like Trump. Trump's a knife to the jugular. But anyways, he is on Trump's team, so I give him some slack.
Use taxpayers. They spent about 90% of taxpayer money on overhead, the bureaucracy, not foreign aid. But we got new disturbing details out of a report from the Inspector General for USAID, warning that it was more than likely giving taxpayer money to groups overseas with links to terrorism. Let's welcome to the show Senator Ron Johnson from Senate Homeland Security.
There you go. Sometimes I think that Democratic politicians are just complete idiots. I mean, well, you listen to them talk for a few minutes. I mean, they seem to have the most Looney Tune people. No wonder they're giving money to terrorists.
Finance. Let's show the viewer what we found. Let's dig into the senator. This is a problem. They don't vet the money, the IG warned, that they give to subcontractor groups overseas. No database tracking how they're giving out the money. No one's vetting it. One report suggests over $122 million of taxpayer money were funneled into groups aligned with Islamic terror organizations in Gaza, Syria, and Afghanistan. Senator, is that what you're hearing? Thanks for joining us tonight.
We are, and let's face it, Elizabeth, this is just the tip of the iceberg. The federal government last year spent $7,000 billion. That's up from $4,400 billion just 6 years ago. The federal government is completely out of control.
You know, an interesting fact, Donald Trump is one of the first presidents since Washington that was actually worth less money this is after his first term, when he got out of finished being president than when he started. He was worth less. George Washington is the only other one. Every other president came out a lot richer. Clinton, who was always crying about being broke, I think because they have to report all this stuff. They were worth $1.5 million when they went in. He was worth like $260 million when he left. Obama, the same. They're all just worth just tons of money. I have no idea what Biden's worth, but I hope they can go after Biden and get some of that money. Even if they can't go after him criminally, which I guess they could, but they don't want to, they can make him spend a lot of that money on legal fees doing something.
Well, this should surprise no one. And the fact of the matter is these agencies, they are not accountable. They are run by unelected bureaucrats. There's all this misplaced outrage about Elon Musk being unelected. Yeah, but at least he's reporting to a duly elected president. These bureaucrats, oftentimes leftist partisans in these organizations, spent the first Trump administration undermining, trying to sabotage his efforts. President Trump is trying to prevent that from happening now, and we are very quickly starting to see just, again, the tip of the iceberg of the waste, fraud, abuse, these funds being misspent.
Are any Democrats talking about what the USAID Inspector General warned? So we're seeing a quarter of their program funds, about $8 billion.
No, it's funny. None of the Democrats are running around saying, oh, gosh, you found all this corruption. Great. We've been meaning to get to the bottom of it, or it's great that you got to the bottom of it. No, they're just running around saying Trump's acting like Hitler. Elon Musk is acting like the president. But none of it's meaningful stuff. It's like, oh, you're just calling people names. You know, Elon Musk is in there digging out corruption, telling you who's getting what, how much it was, and everything else like that. The Democrats are just running around, yeah, their hair on fire.
It goes through international organizations like the UN. But we know that USAID exempted UN agencies from having to vet who gets the money in places like Gaza. I mean, so we're talking potentially maybe the Taliban, you know, you're talking Hamas and other terrorist groups could have pulled in nearly $1.4 billion.
Yep, just leave it up to Democrats. They're giving money to the terrorists. Why not? They're downtown wearing Gaza scarves and Hamas scarves, and they're mixing Gaza scarves with LGBTQ scarves. Now, LGBTQ, you go over to Gaza and you start wearing those scarves, you'll be dead in a few minutes. They're not going to put up with that stuff.
Total under Biden alone. That's a lot of money.
Elizabeth, all this money is going to fund leftist gravy train. And so Democrats aren't outraged by this. What they're outraged by is Elon Musk. He's unelected, and their allies in the legacy media are also, all this misplaced outrage about an unelected person. Well, again, the bureaucrats are...
They're upset because they got caught. And I think some of this is going to come back to them. They're going to put a paper trail. They're going to do some forensic accounting on this, and they're going to find out who got some of that money.
Unelected. They're not accountable to anybody. They don't provide the American public information through their elected representatives here in Congress. Who else can investigate that? So, again, I applaud Elon Musk. I applaud the Trump administration. I applaud President Trump for taking bold, swift, and decisive action to start reining all this stuff in. This is why he...
I'm sure that USAID did some good things, and they started off as probably a good agency. But when the politician got involved in it, they just got it corrupted. There was one employee with USAID, and she was saying, I'm glad they stopped and caught it. She said they would spend money on the dumbest things ever. I mean, she knew it was stupid.
He was elected.
Yeah, it's really shocking. I don't think the U.S. taxpayer voted for any of their money to go to fund terrorists overseas. That's what the fear is. The IG is warning about USAID. Senator Ron Johnson, thank you so much for helping us out with that story tonight. We appreciate you very much.
So there you go, guys. I mean, you just can't make this stuff up. I appreciate you taking time to listen to me. I just kind of put some things together here to show you what USAID was doing. USAID GATE, that's what we got going here. So if you agree with me, put it down in the comments. If you disagree with me, put it down in the comments. And if you could like and subscribe, I sure would appreciate it. But until then, see ya.